Olá, eu sou Maria Cláudia Faro, eu sou embaixadora da NEUROARQ e hoje eu vou falar com o Julio Bermudez, que é um cientista, originalmente ele é argentino, mas ele mora nos Estados Unidos, realiza pesquisas lá e ele estuda a relação entre arquitetura e espiritualidade. Oh, hi, how are you?
Good to be with you.
Me too. You said that you opened saying that you were happy that you had the opportunity to talk to people about this. I totally understand because today talking about religion, not spirituality, is something that not everybody wants to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I was very interested about your organization. Can you tell us about it a little bit?
Well, this is a group that I co-founded back in 2007. It's called the Architecture, Culture, and Spirituality Forum, and it has over 900 people in the world from 65 countries. And the whole point of the organization is to create an environment, a place where these kind of questions about how the physical and the metaphysical come together through design or construction or teaching or research. We have meetings once a year. The next one, which I'm actually co-chairing, is in Varanasi, in India, in January, for instance. And the following one will be in Kyoto, Japan. Most of them are in the United States. And we have people from Brazil, not too many. We have people from South America, for sure, of the 900.
And how can we get into the organization, and how can people participate?
Well, it's free. It's free.
It's free?
It's free. You can become a member for free. You can go to the website. Basically, all the information is acsforum.org. If you enter that, you go there.
I'll be there.
Yeah. No, it's free. I mean, it's in English. That's the only part. But everything is otherwise is open.
We were talking about how human beings, they somehow all the cultures turn to spirituality, and that how I think the first architecture that is registered is always like religious, right? Spiritual. And in my studies, I studied this a bit. It seems like we have a place in the brain for God. They call the place for God. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And that prayer gets us all in the same state of mind. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, is there a place in the brain for spiritual architecture?
Well, we know there is a place in the brain that is for place, to find yourself in a particular location. We know that. Actually, it's an architect that found this. It's a very place located very clearly in the brain. So I don't remember exactly the name because it's a particular location. But certainly, experiencing architecture, certain architecture, will certainly produce an activation of part of the brain, different parts of the brain, and the brain is so continuously active, right? But when you face a particular type of architecture, religious architecture, that has certain conditions, and you are a believer on that faith, your experience will activate parts of the brain that relate to, let's say, thought or visuals or motor activity or emotions. And if you have the right technology, you could see what part of the brain is on. Or the alternative is to see what brain waves are being activated. The way of thinking of brain wave, like electroencephalogram does this, is that different parts of the brain are talking to each other, and they use this particular alpha, beta, theta, gamma, etc., to talk through that particular frequency. So when you measure that, say, well, they're using gamma, let's say, well, most of the brain is on that pattern. So so that's how we go about measuring activity of the brain.
And in the architecture you showed, and that you made this comparison between spiritual place and the station, like a train station is not so spiritual, but they were all like huge, right? So, and when you talked about the place in New York, I've been there, it's really great. Uh-huh. It's all about size. Uh-huh. is it all about size? I mean, can we, because I was worried, like you said, we do it in the first world, we don't do it here. And it's hard for us, like in a not developed country, to do architecture, I mean, with this. And I wonder if this, I know that there research that the sensation of awe that the architecture can produce, it turns us more human and connected to each other. Do you think that, how could we really, like, I mean, because I'm an architect, I'm not a researcher. I mean, what do you suggest that we could do besides size and to bring awe and make people like connect? Because I think in the end, that's what it's all about, religion. Like in the end, all religions is to make you like good. It's about goodness, right?
Yeah.
So how can architecture bring out the goodness?
Well, religion comes from religare. Means religare means to reconnect. So we are disconnected, and religion reconnect us. So we are in a state of sin or ignorance, depends what religion, they use different stories. Then you reconnect through your religion to that transcendent state. Scale is a very important aspect of producing awe. It's very proven that. So it's very hard to produce awe without resorting to scale. However, I can think of a book, The Poetic of Space, by Gaston Bachelard. One of the speakers actually had it up there. And he talks a whole chapter on small spaces, corners of homes, and places that are incredibly intimate and very warm and very cozy. And they produce a level of presence that a big train station or a big basilica, like I showed, will never do. So attaining these extraordinary experiences of architecture, as I call them, they are profound. They tend to happen in these big places because that's what people do, right? But I did a survey a few years back, and the top 3,000 people answered it. And one of the part of the survey is where you attain that experience, all these extraordinary experiences, spiritual experience. And of the top 15, 20, there were at least a fifth that were small spaces or houses, for instance. So, I mean, you could, like the one I show today, Campo Baeza's parking spot. That's not a big parking. I mean, I don't know, maybe have 30, 40 cars, but the terrace is pretty small. And the awe that produces that state of transcendence is when you turn around and you see this amazing view, right? Which is mind-boggling. So there are so many ways. The other ways that we could attain that, and I remember very well to the small church in a place in the Camino de Santiago, in the path of James in English, Puerto Marin. I can exactly tell you the moment, and it was a small church that has been moved because it was built, I don't know, 600-700, and it was small. It was 6 meters by 4 meters, very small. It's a chapel, and I took my students there, and then we were about to enter, and all the steps to enter, because it was higher, they were all eroded by people because it's a pilgrimage. I mean, it put me to tears. I mean, generations of humans have eroded like water, a stone, and it was small, and it was run down, but the materiality of it was so rich. You could say people put in the, back in the Middle Ages where they didn't have much money, in the middle of nowhere in Spain, they put the best they had, and you felt that. It was just, so it was not humango, it was 10 feet tall. I mean, it was like a small chapel with a Jesus and a Virgin. It was, it was a small, and again, this is a religious, but you could find some of the same spiritual, because you could be spiritual and not religious, and a lot of people don't understand that. And I'm glad you brought the issue of, it's very hard to talk religion today, but it's not so hard to talk about spirituality. It's kind of interesting, right? Because we live more in secular society, so it's okay to talk about spirituality, but not to talk about religion, because then we get into a political or whatever, ideological. But then what are you talking about? So when you talk about spirituality, you talk about some transcendent quality, whether it comes from the Catholics or Christians or the Jews or the Islam or the Hindus or whatever, right? How you attain that level, to me, that's what spirituality is all about. And it could be attained through aesthetics. That's a beautiful thing. It could be attained by a functional activity that you help people with. Maybe it's a shelter that people can sleep tonight, and suddenly you're protected. It's an act of spiritual giving, right? Yeah. And then the other one could be by just abstaining, just create spaces that challenge conventional consumption today, which is destroying the planet, right? So if you create architecture that somehow make people stop and consuming wonder will stop you anything, right? Yeah, wonder. I love it. Yeah, that's what we're trying to say.
Do you know there's this church in the U.S. that it's kind of tiny, it's in the middle of nature, and it seems it's one of the most visited architectural places?
Well, maybe I know, I don't.
I hadn't the time to prepare, but there is this church, and it's not very big.
Where is it?
In the States.
It's a big
Let's
country.
look it up. Yeah, I know.
Okay, you owe me that one.
I owe you.
No, I mean, that's a big deal. So
No, it's a big deal because it seems it's one of the most visited places in architecture.
I would love to know where is that? Oh,
I'll get. It's not hard to find out.
is it small or semi?
It's not very big. I mean, it's like it's a private.
Oh, private.
It was commissioned by a private. It's not like it's in a.
And it still is allowed to go, and people can go.
A visitation like
That's
falling
great.
water,
Yeah.
like that.
That's great.
And I wonder, have you been to Nehemiah's cathedral in Brasilia? Because Nehemiah.
Yes, I've been to that.
Nehemiah, historically, he's an atheist.
Atheist, yeah.
And I particularly think it's amazing. Can
It's
you
an
say
amazing-
something about it?
Yeah, I was very young. I went there in 1977, so you have a sense how far the time, and it was powerful. I knew of the building because I was studying architecture. I just started architecture, and I was playing volleyball, and we went there. And one of the first things, I escaped my team, and I went to see it, and I did a drawing. Very powerful place, and it's an icon, right? It's more its experience, which is what in the end matters. But it's also an icon that represents Brazil. I mean, it's one of the most iconic things in Brazil, and that's very hard to do. But that he was atheist is interesting because some other people are atheists or close to atheists, agnostic for sure, like Le Corbusier, and he produced amazing, like Ronchamp, right? I mean, so you could say these people were spiritual. One of the people that, I don't know how we with time, but one of the people that was mentioned today, Michael Benedict, the older lady that spoke, Michael Benedict, he was a good friend of mine. He just passed away 3 months ago, and he put the book that she quoted was Beyond Experience. Well, he was Jewish, but he confessed to be an atheist. But he was one of the most spiritual people I ever met. And if you read the book, for instance, or he wrote another one, God is a good we do. His argument was about architecture. And he was atheist.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's not about, We can talk later because now we have to end.
Okay.
So it was a pleasure talking to you. And you want to do some research in Brazil, in Nehemiah's place? I think
I
it would be
love
to do
that.
that.
We have to talk about maybe opportunity to do that.
What do we need to do that? I can
We can
totally...
bring some of the technology. We can fly the technology.
You can fly the technology.
We just have to be a little bit of support here. We could talk about that, certainly.
Let's talk about that,
Yeah,
because I think it's a very important subject.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Então, gente, foi isso. A gente conversou aqui sobre arquitetura, espiritualidade e como talvez ter uma arquitetura espiritual presente nas nossas vidas talvez traga um mundo melhor. É isso. Obrigada.